Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Thomas Harris, founder of The Exceptional Skills and author of Essential Leadership 65 Lessons Every Leader Needs to Know. And his book has been adopted as university textbook for leadership classes. Welcome to the show, Thomas.
Thank you so much, AJ. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for
You are
having me.
well. You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not
Awesome.
just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about demystifying exceptional leadership in that backdrop. But before we come to this part, let's understand a bit about your journey, Thomas, so that people can know who they are listening to.
Sure. I think I started my leadership journey when I was a kid, or the first experience with it. We went to my cousin's house. I'd visit my cousins with my brother, and sometimes the adult would step outside or wherever it would be, and they would put one of us kids in charge. And I always wanted to be the one in charge because I wanted to be able to tell everyone what to do.
Yeah.
And one day I was the one put in charge. And then I told one of my kids or one of the other kids, I was like, hey, do something or don't do something. And they didn't listen. And that's one of my first realizations that being in charge doesn't mean that people are going to do what you say. And I would say I wish I learned that lesson completely, but throughout, like I've had in high school, college, and beyond, had different leadership positions, formal, informal. But I still even remember probably 10 something years ago, I was in a position and I wasn't in a leadership position at that time. But I remember I was thinking to myself, if only I had a position, then I could lead. And I was so off on my mentality about that. But I thought I knew leadership. I thought I knew from the different jobs I had. I was a warehouse manager for a little while. I had different businesses I ran. But I realized later that I didn't. And I had started a business with a friend of mine. It was a textbook business. And also we taught like soft skills. And when he left, I just focused on the soft skills part. And I started writing. I wanted to start writing about leadership. It's like, well, that's a good topic. And as I started deep diving in it, I first realized how little about leadership I really knew, even though I thought I did. And then also realized how much of the misinfo or how much of the information out there isn't helpful. It's can hurt you as a leader. And so it became kind of a passion of mine just to research and deep dive into what really great leadership is, and then try to help others become great leaders because leadership is so important because it's the most important factor of success for any team or organization. So the better leadership you have, the better results you can get. And so that my goal really has become to create a world where like great leadership is the norm and not the anomaly.
Absolutely. Great leadership is the norm and not the anomaly. But you see, at the same time, when you are talking about this, the world is talking about a leadership crisis in so many spheres. But we look at, even if we just look at the corporate side, we are just very much dealing with a great resignation, quiet quitting, and so many other things. So why is it that anything which should have been the norm and not an exception is actually so topsy turvy, and that we are talking of terms like not just the crisis, leadership crisis, but also automation of the leadership itself. And so how should one look at leadership? Means, why is it that some people think that they are leaders, whereas they might just be pure managers? And those people who are leaders, they may even not know that they are leaders, and neither the society recognizes them because they do not have that designation, that position, that tag to carry on. So how, I want to understand your mind, how should individuals, people in responsible positions or lesser positions, know who they are? Are they managers? Are they leaders? What are they?
Sure. So I think there's a big issue that we have just in general in the world is a misunderstanding of what leadership is and
Right.
even management. And a lot of times people see it as very subjective, like leadership is whatever you want it to be. And that's not really true because I can call anything I want to love, doesn't mean I'm going to have a good relationship. And I can call anything I want to. I can make any kind of candy I want to and make it any flavor. Doesn't mean it's going to taste good. And so, what we often need to do is look what's effective. And like a lot of times people say, well, to me, leadership is this, or to me, leadership is that. And there's certain aspects of that that can be true, but often it's dangerous because we make it so subjective and not what's effective. And so leadership, kind of the definition that I've come to see and I talk about is that leadership really is the process of guiding people toward the accomplishment of a goal through influence. And there's many aspects of that because it's a process. Things change. The principles are the same, but the process or what's needed at a different moment might change. And then you're guiding people somewhere because without a destination, you're not really leading, you're just building relationships. And it's through influence because the thing is, leadership isn't a position, it's leadership is a skill, it's an ability, it's taking people somewhere. And if you're taking people, leading people to a waterfall on the hike, you are leading people there. You don't have to have a position. It's built through influence and the relationship you have with people. And so that's why a leadership position is a position where someone's supposed to lead. Doesn't mean they know how or that they're doing it. And so a person can lead from any position they're in or without a position just by building influence with people. And I define influence as the relationship and respect that people have for, with you so that they'll act for and with you. And so the difference between leadership and management, the best definition I've had with that was from Julie Zhao's book, The Making of a Manager. And the paraphrase, the way she worded it, or the paraphrase of it, is that leadership is a skill and management is a position. You don't have to have a position to be a leader, but you can't be a good manager without also having leadership skills, without being a good leader. And that's kind of really good different definition because you don't have to have a position to lead. You just have to build that influence with people, have a direction that you're taking people, and then you move forward in that. And you can lead people from wherever. But management is a position, like you're hired to a position. Then there's, of course, there's different skills you may have to learn and things you do to be a manager. But you also have to be a good leader because you are leading people somewhere. Even as a manager, even if you're in the front line manager, you still have a goal or direction you're taking your team toward. And so you're still leading people toward that. And it's leadership is a skill, and that part's important because it's something anybody can learn. You just have to learn the behaviors that do, and it's based off principles.
Right, right, Thomas. Now, I want to understand you talked about goals, and you also mentioned about that. Leaders take you towards a certain destination, a goal. Managers also are, taking you towards a certain target. Then, how do you differentiate between how one is a leader and one is a pure manager? Where is that difference amidst this overlap?
I think, well, some, like if you're managing and you're not over people, but you're managing like a process or something, then that could be like pure management. And also, management has certain functions, such as, you're evaluating, you're evaluating people. I'm trying to think of all the different functions off the top of my head. There's different functions that you do as a manager that are just specific to management in the sense that like evaluation and certain, I'm sorry, my brain's kind of, but with leadership, it's even in those, you're still building those relationships and influence with people. So like I said, the different functions of management that you have to do as a manager, that even like hiring, firing, things of that nature, evaluation, uh, all that's kind of the management part. But to even do it that well, you want to be able to lead. Does that kind of make sense? Does that kind of
Yes,
help
yes,
leadership?
yes. You have already explained all these things. You have such a great book. Also, not everyone book gets selected for a university course. So that already speaks a lot about your quality of that thing. We'll come on to the book. Let me understand it from a point of the mistakes that you talk about, that why you may not be as good of a leader as you think you are. Everyone thinks that they are great leaders, but then your views certainly can help them understand themselves better, at least not in public, even in private, if they can introspect and understand those things. What are these things that you talk about that you may not be as good a leader as you think you are? Help us understand this a bit.
Sure. Well, sometimes when people get into leadership positions, they just assume they know how to lead. And there's different reasons for that we think. Like, just as humans, we often think well of ourselves. Like, if you ask a
Right.
room of 100 people who drive, who's an above average driver, most people are going to raise their hand and say they're above average, because we all just think well of ourselves. And so we all just think, in general, that, hey, we're pretty good leaders. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we rationalize, like if mistakes happen, things aren't going well, it's easy for us as humans to rationalize we are why it's the situation. It's not us, it's something else. It's just kind of part of how we are as humans. There's a Dunning-Kruger effect, and the Dunning-Kruger effect basically says that the less we know about something, the more confident we are about what we think we know. You can also think of it as the curse of a little knowledge. And so sometimes we learn a little bit about something such as leadership, and we think we know more than we know. And so all of those are part of it. But there's also the fact that a lot of the information out there about leadership isn't accurate, especially like when you look on social media and stuff. And then when people get in organizations, often people aren't trained well. And so they might focus on the conventional wisdom. They talk about the duties that they're supposed to do in that position, but but they don't really necessarily talk about the principles that it takes to lead. And of course, we have promotions and stuff like that people keep getting moved up for the wrong reasons, and then they keep thinking they are doing well as leading when they're not, but they'll be promoting for the wrong reasons for that. So really, it's just kind of a mixture of things. Is that sometimes just as people, we think well of ourselves, and also I think sometimes we want to equate, if someone's a bad leader, then they're a bad person. So if I'm not a good leader, that means I'm a bad person, and that's not really true, because if leadership's a skill, like if I'm learning to play guitar and I'm bad at it, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means I haven't learned it yet.
Right.
And while bad people
Right.
can be bad managers or bad leaders, it doesn't mean you're bad if you aren't good at leadership. It just means you haven't learned it yet.
Absolutely. Well explained about that. Now, let me understand this for the audience in a better way. Talked about that good leadership should be a norm. Exceptional leadership should be a norm and not an exception. Why do you think? Does it mean that largely a lot more people than we see have the potential to be leaders, that they are leaders but they do not know about it? Help us understand this a bit in a better sense.
Sure. So anybody can lead. I think Simon Sinek said to a large degree that leadership is like parenting. Anybody can be a parent, but not everybody should be, not everybody wants to be. And like anybody can be a
Right.
leader, because leadership is certain principles or behaviors that you do that can make you good. If you follow the principles and behaviors, then you can become a good leader. And it's, like, you can think of it as a skill like guitar or anything. It just takes practice. If you want to be good at soccer, you have to practice and do it, and then you can become better at it. And so that's what leadership. So anybody can lead. And you don't have to, even in a business setting, the leader may not actually be the boss. It may be somebody else who's very well respected by everybody. Like if you have a new leader come
Right.
in, or new boss, and everybody's looking to somebody else because they've been there so long, they respect them, then that person in a sense is the leader of that group at that time, because everybody's looking at that person. Sometimes people see leadership as the being a vision caster. And you may cast vision, you may, because you want to have a direction to go to, but you can also take on other directions from other people or from your organization or whatever it may be. Because like if you're taking people on a hike, you didn't create that waterfall that you're going to, you're just taking people there. So I think anybody, you could always just think of it this: you can lead, anybody can lead. And you may, if you have influence with people, like you have that respect, people see you as reliable, they trust you, they see you as helping them win, then you have that influence, and you can take people places because of that respect they have with you and because of that influence. So for any of your audience, if you want to lead, you can. Again, it's just build off influence and building that respect and relationship with those people and having them follow you because of that.
Right, right, Thomas. Now let's come to your books, Exceptional Skills, Essential Leadership, 65 Lessons Every Leader Needs to Know. Uh, who is this? It's about leaders, but who is this book? Is it only for leaders? Is it for, or is it for everyone else? When, because when you talk about the exceptional leadership is the should be the norm.
Yeah, I guess it's mainly geared to people who want to lead or who are in leadership positions. Because you, I think, like, I really believe anybody can lead if they want to, but not everybody wants to. Because leadership is hard, especially to do it right. It's an act of service. There's hard work in it, so you may not want to, and that's okay if you don't want to be in a leadership position. Though, like I think you said, AJ, you still may be leading in other ways and not realize it. Um, if you're directing people, but official positions you may not want, and that's okay. But no, we all can be leaders, and we all really are leaders in different ways, whether it's with our families or our friends. We all can lead in different ways. So really anybody can use this book to understand what it means to lead, but really it's kind of geared more to people who want to be like official, I guess, leaders kind of thing.
Right, right. What have you dealt? 65 lessons, quite a many lessons that a leader needs to understand. Tell us a bit about, what have you dealt in this book? And what 65 lessons, obviously you cannot talk about 65 lessons, but what are these lessons that you have mentioned in this book so that we will know some of the lessons, and then for more they will have to, get that book.
Sure. So I kind of broke it up and try to kind of separate in different pieces,
Right,
kind of general topical. So I start off with the book with kind of how a lot of the information out there is not necessarily 100% accurate, and that we need to make sure we get it right because leadership is so important. So then I talk about kind of what leadership is and isn't, some concepts, like kind of some of the stuff we've already talked about, how we may not know about leaders, or how sometimes we think we know what leadership is because we're in a position, but that doesn't equal that. So I kind of go over some of the misconceptions about leadership in the
right,
first part of the book. And then I start kind of going to, like, as a leader, this is how you should be. These are some of the things that personally you should do. Like, you need to take ownership of problems when they happen. You should be humble. You should be a good listener, things of that nature. And then that kind of goes into more practical tips in the sense of, okay, this is how you run effective meetings. These are ways you can communicate better with your team. This is how you can show appreciation. This is how you can give feedback, things of that nature. And then it kind of goes even deeper in some strategic thinking and some just like things about hiring, firing, but also things like what's your, not like motive as a leader, but like pro, people first versus profit first, or things of that nature. It kind of dives into those aspects as well. Some of the strategic parts are things you need to think about when you're in a position of leadership.
right, right, Thomas. Now, uh, I'm a bit keen to understand about being adopted as university textbook. There's so many books on leadership, and when someone adopts it as a textbook for leadership classes, that's a big thing, huge thing. Means it's a lot of endorsement. So I want to understand what is it that did they tell you why they actually, what is it that they want to teach from your book to the university students?
She said, like, when she messaged me, she said she never used a textbook before because she didn't really find ones that fit. She just used her own experience. But from what I understand from what she read, but just kind of the way I laid out the kind of step by step aspects of it, of leadership, that's what she liked because it's very applicable in many ways and kind of just down to earth versus theoretical or things of that nature. And I think that's kind of what she liked about it, for her class. That could be easy for them to read, to understand, and to grasp the different concepts.
Wonderful. So, any is this the only book? Are there any more books coming on leadership? Tell us a bit about what's your plan for the future in terms of writing, in terms of and about this exceptional skills. What is this? You're the founder of Exceptional Skills. Tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So the exceptional skills, it started off as kind of teaching different soft skills like time management, conflict resolution, things of that nature. And so there's still a bunch of articles related to that on the site. But for the past while, my focus has been on leadership because of its importance. And so a lot of articles on that as well. The main thing with that was the goal really is, like, I have the book out and I'm going to be putting out some courses and things of that nature, just like online training people can take to be able to just learn leadership in an easy way. and also use it as a platform to be able to go speak and do live trainings and stuff. But main thing is kind of like the online aspect. So that's kind of what that is about. It's just kind of the platform for all of it that come from and the training. With other books, there's probably more coming down the road and down the line. I don't
Right.
have any I'm writing on yet, but I have lots of ideas, and so I'll just have to wait and see how things come along and see what's next. So,
See what's next. Wonderful. A lot of learning people can have from you. A lot of people would like, I'm sure, to connect with you, to learn more from you, about you, learn from you, from your exceptional skills and also from your book. So, what is the best way for them to do so?
if they just go to theexceptionalskills.com, you can contact me on the contact page there. It has a link to my book from there, and also has a lot of the articles and stuff you can read as well. So that'll probably be the easiest way to connect with me.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass line. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.